Hey guys, it's Becca here, and welcome back to Becca's by the Bay. See if we can get our video streaming. Hey guys, welcome. So excited for today. We're in our living room. So here we are. I came in the other night. I was really tired. We've been working on some things. So this is our living worm composter, vermiculture station. I've looked at several ways of doing this. There are some DIYs that you can do, and I will try to put links below. There's a few other people that have done some. We have such a limited space here, and I want to see how this works out inside here in our small home first before we try. We have like a giant bathtub in the back, and I'm hoping the mixture of worms that I got will do well out there as well too, but we're going to just see how they do inside first. And our temperatures right now in Corpus Christi, Texas have been dipping and doing some highs and lows, and so worms don't really like hot temperatures, and they don't like really cold temperatures. They'll slow down or possibly die if it's too cold. So if it's below 40, it can be too much for them, and if it's above 85, they really struggle as well. So we're going to look at, this was super easy to put together. The whole thing is just a cover. And I really like this design. If you can see, there's big holes in here. So worms come in different sizes. Those like little ones, you know, night crawler size, big ones. And some of the ones, that's what this great about this one is that the worms can climb up through the holes. So this is called a stacking composter or living composter. And some come with wooden legs. This one came with little plastic legs that you just stick in here. Comes with 2 trays. Of course, the 2 trays have holes. And so the bottom tray is where you attach this drain. And it has a like on and off switch to close it and open it. This could be hooked up to a garden hose. We're going to leave it closed inside right now. And then inside it came with a little drain cap. And that goes in there like that. So this area will collect any extra liquid, which would be compost tea. Now, if it smells, from what I've been reading or looking at other people's things, if they've had their compost with their worms too wet and this becomes anaerobic and it gets smelly, it's really not good to use, and they say to toss it out. So if it doesn't have any smell and it just smells earthy, you can dilute it and water your plants with it. So this is as easy as it gets to put it together. So the reason why there's 2, and this comes with, you can order extra trays. So this came like this. You can order a set of extra 2 more stacking trays to have more worms. But how this works is, we got our worms in. They came like UPS in like 1.5 days from the Brothers Worm Farm in Austin, Texas. They were the only ones that we found locally where we could get worms. I think you can get red wiggler worms if you are somewhere where there's fresh water, so like around Lake Corpus Christi. Sometimes Walmart sells worms inside. We've had issues with the vehicle, so we just haven't been in Walmart in a while. So it's possible you could get some red wiggler worms at Walmart. But this was a variety mix. So they had a variety mix of red wigglers, big reds, and blue worms. Now, some of the worms, there's lots of variety. Some are better for vermicomposting than others. I'm not exactly sure why. Other than that, the information that I found was that they eat more. So the varieties, and they also, this box came with holes in it so they could breathe. So that was the information that I was finding. And there's a few other varieties that are supposed to be good besides the blue worms. I think it was the African night crawlers or the European night crawlers are supposed to be really good. And I think their website had a list of all the other different varieties. There's like about 5 varieties of vermicomposting worms that eat their weight a day in waste materials. So worms are basically vegan. They don't like They don't eat meat. They don't eat any kind of spicy stuff. So basically, they don't eat any dairy, cheese, or milk. No meat or animal products. We don't give them cooked foods because it's got spices or salts on it, and that would be harmful to them. They don't really care for citrus, and no garlic, no peppers, no ginger, no tomatoes, and no tomato sauce. Although it looked like some people were giving them some plain pasta or plain rice if it was just cooked with no salt. Um, if you had like some that was plain that was cooked up that was left over, that would be a possible food source for them. So we ordered a quarter pound. A quarter pound of worms was about 250 worms, and I had to set up a temporary shelter for them. So I have it in my Tupperware salad bowl spinner. So here's our worms, and this was a mix of peat moss, eggshells, paper, shredded paper, and we've got some food in here, and they have buried themselves pretty well. So here's one of our little wiggly guys here. They're pretty happy, and they're settled in at the bottom. I don't even know if I can pull them all out because they don't like the light, so they're like keep digging back down to go back in. So they're happy. They've been eating the food I gave them the past 2 days. So how you want to get this set up is it did come with a cocoa core, so cocoa core or peat moss. They will eat that, and that makes a great worm bedding. So it came with 3 cocoa cores discs, and I rehydrated them already. It took 2 liters of water, and then the other thing that they said, and I forgot to get it, was they said you want, because there's holes at the bottom, you want to line the bottom with either some cardboard or some paper. And it's supposed to be wet. It'll get wet. So we got some cardboard at the bottom. That's just so that they don't fall through the holes. And then you're going to put in your cocoa core or peat moss. And I'm not exactly sure how much that is. But that filled the tray about halfway. They love leaves, and leaves are a great source of nutrients, not just for your garden, but for the worms. And so we're going to put some leaves in there. They're going to eat that up. This stuff, they will eat this if you shred it up. You can get your kids to just like break these up with you and pop that in there and mix it in. Or if you have like shredded newspapers or shredded mailers or your bills, if you've got bills that you've already paid and you want to shred them up, I thought that'd be a really cool idea. Shred up your old bills and have the worms eat them. How fun. So we're going to shred all that up. And they love eggshells. So in order for worms to reproduce, they need the calcium. So they're going to need crushed up eggshells. These are not baked or dried or anything. They're just moist. Now I'm out of bananas. They love bananas. So we're going to crunch up some. And you want to make things as small as possible. Some people will make smoothies for them. Or you could just chop it up or crunch it up really fine. Add a bunch of eggshells. I ate the ones that I already gave them. They're so funny. So there's our eggshells. So you want to put about, oops, I dropped it, about a cup of just garden soil that you have from your garden. Of course, I just vacuumed. I'll have to vacuum again. So they need the grit. So they need the grit to move through, and I forget what else why. But they need some grit. So that's with the soil, or you can put some sand in there. You can put tea bags or coffee grounds. Now you don't want to put too much because it's acidic and they don't like it too acidic. So I already have some in their first batch. So I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of spent coffee grounds. This is what they sent me with the composter. So this was just some shredded paper that they sent me. So we're just gonna put that in there. So that's in there. Got some more cardboard shreds. So if you don't have cocoa core, you can go buy that big bag of like peat moss from Home Depot or Lowe's. And that will work as really good bedding too. So basically they're going to eat all of this. This just all needs to get mixed up really good. And they like it fluffy and moist. So like if it's too dry, the worms are not going to like it. So we're going to add probably a little bit more water here. Feels a little dry. Some water, and you're just looking for a consistency of, you know, something where you could squeeze it together and hold together and then kind of clump apart, fall apart, you know. You might see a little bit of liquid coming out. We're not quite there. So we're going to add a little bit more water. Because your worms are like 90% water and moisture, and they need that to like move through and stay moist and all that good stuff. It looks like they didn't give me enough. So this tray really needs to be filled up probably to the top. But I do have this one here that I filled up, that they're in a temporary shelter. So. And it depends on how many pounds of worms you have as to how much food that they'll eat. So basically, if you've got a quarter pound of worms, they're going to eat a quarter pound of food a day. So you can feed or feed them a bunch, like, you know, once a week or something. Them and needed to go on vacation or something, they'd be good for 2 weeks. So I'd probably feed them really good before you left and maybe have somebody check on them. But so there's that. People also say that if you've got problems or issues with fruit flies, you might want to freeze their food first and then let it thaw out. That way it would kill any kind of bugs. We just went to the garden and picked some kale and broccoli and collards and stuff like that. That was kind of holy and buggy looking. This is stuff I normally give our chickens every day, but we're going to make sure our worms have some good stuff too. So, and you can chop this up with a knife if you want to, a little bit finer. I already have some stuff already chopped up. We got some pak choy in here. Now, I did see where people said that they were burying the food in different spots, and I also saw where people were just kind of like having the food all throughout. I think it'd be better if you probably had the food all throughout your bin mixed in. That way they could like, it stays moist consistently and they can get around and, you know, get to it and eat it and things like that. So we're gonna just bury it a little bit. Like that. Looking good, looking really cozy. So, and I'll give you a few more tips. So we've got top of my stuff here. There's a few worms there. See if we can uncover some of these babies. Oh, they're hiding, they're jumping. So basically, yeah, they don't like the light. See them moving around. So we're gonna put them in here. And they're gonna force their way down because they don't like the light. So technically they're gonna be they're going to be burying themselves. So you want to leave them where the light is on and open. And then you're going to top them off with some more bedding. Cover them up. And they recommend putting some more paper or cardboard on top. So this technically would be just moistened a little bit, and then you don't want them crawling out. So you can leave it open with the light on until they bury themselves, so nobody's trying to escape, and they nestle in and find themselves a good spot and a place to eat and hang out. And then if you don't have cardboard, this was something that I thought was like really good. You can purchase these hemp blankets. These are warm blankets. It is just 100% hemp fabric. They have different sizes. You can cut them to the size they need to be. And basically this just helps prevent fruit flies, helps keep them moist, and helps evaporation not happen so quickly. So you might want to check on your worms every day or every other day just to make sure that they're not too dry, and spritz them and make sure that they're moist enough. And this is just to help hold in the moisture and give them a nice warm dark place to hang out. So we've got our worm blanket or our cardboard or just a bunch of old newspapers, and that's it. You would just put the top on and feed them and check on them every other day, every couple of days. So basically you don't want to have the other tray on just yet. So they're going to take about a month to 2 months, from what I was reading, at least about a month, to eat all this stuff plus the weekly feedings that you're going to give them. And they'll turn that into worm castings, which you can use straight away into your plants or make a compost tea with. So once they finish that, you're going to start a new worm bed with all the dry mixture, with the peat moss or cocoa core and all the ingredients I was just showing you. Get that all ready, and then what you do is you will make sure that there's not a cover on. You want the soil to be touching so that they'll have finished this. They'll find their new bedding, and you'll put some food up here, and they'll crawl up through the holes, and then they'll find their way to a new home, and that'll take about a day. And then when that happens, you can check the next day, and this should be just completely all worm castings and no worms, and they'll have their new home. Then you can take this tray out and go use it, and then replace it with the new one. I think that's really cool. I'm super excited. I've always wanted to have worms, and I have to cut that a little bit smaller for that to fit in. There's several different ones out there. I like this one because it was the easiest to work with. And I will put links below to all the places that I found. If you're in Texas, I'm in Christie, Texas, where you can either purchase these or the different worms that were recommended. And there's a couple of different composters recommended as well on their website. They do send you some instructions, so no fear. They were really helpful about answering some of my questions and got back to me right away. Also, if you're in Austin, Texas, and you want to pick up these worms, they have a pickup for a little bit less and not have to pay the shipping. These were for a £1/4. I think it was $33 and change. That included shipping. And yeah, so it says like 4 ounces of food. They love mashed bananas. A half of a mashed banana is perfect to start off with. Takes them about 1 to 2 days to settle under their home. Poor guys, they were all settled into this, and then finally we get this in. So anyway, Whaley calls this their worm condo or their little worm hut, and I just thought it was adorable. It's really a nice size. It's about 15 by 15, and stores really reasonably well in a small space. If you have an apartment or something like that, or just a small home like us, we have a 1,000 square foot home, and so we'll see how they reproduce and how much castings we get per month or every other month. So if they make worm castings every 2 months, to say, you're harvesting at least 6 times a year, and that's a good amount of compost. Like that's a lot of nutrients for your plants and stuff like that. So the cost of things has gone up as far as fertilizers, cow manure, and just gardening stuff in general. And this is something I've wanted to do for a really long time. I don't know when this came out. This is called the Living Composter. It was one by Kathy Nesbitt. I think it's Kathy's Composters. Hers is like the Living Composter, I think what it's called. I'll put the link below. Hers was about $180, and then plus worms and shipping, and it comes from Canada, Ontario, Canada. So if you're in Canada, that would probably be a better deal. This one looks like it's almost the exact same composter, except instead of having wooden legs, it has plastic. And the design is slightly a little bit different, but it does come in all the same colors, so maybe they sold their design. And this is now like the more affordable one. So this was $90 for this living composter off of Amazon. I believe hotfrog.com or Abisco is it Abisco? I will put it down below. It is another gardening website. Also carries the Hut Frog version of this as well. I believe it's $172. So, and that was free shipping, not including your worms, or maybe including your worms. It's kind of pricey. So, I will put links below to some DIY ones. I believe there's some other gardening channels doing some DIY ones, which are really interesting. So we'll see, because I think this is really good quality plastic. It seems harder and more sturdier than buying like your storage bins and things like that, which people have been buying and using and drilling into. And I just like that it's just like kind of like a complete system, and it could be stackable. And it comes in purple. I love purple. So it comes in purple, gray, lime green, or black. So there's 4 color choices. And over the long term, I thought this was like going to make a lot of compost throughout the year versus what we've been either buying as supplements to add into our garden soil and garden beds and raised beds and things like that. And I thought this was a perfect choice with everything that's going on. It's something I've always wanted to do. It's a great way to be a little bit more eco-friendly with all of our paper and management here. You can use toilet paper rolls. You can use if you're using a paper towel rolls, things like that. Egg cartons, things like that, that would go in the recycles. And our recycles only come every other week, and we usually have them so full that we can't fill our